Yo, welcome everybody. I hope everyone is doing fine today. We're just getting the community into the broadcast and it's going to be a fun one again. I'm joined by the one and only Scorpio later today when we go to the broadcast studio for some news. And we got a nice, exciting day ahead of us. When we're going towards the Reform Studio, we'll show again the achievement update video where you will see everything that happened over the last 2 months in terms of numbers. Then we will discuss the news with Reform. Like always, I'm gonna ask Scorpio about what happened in the last week in crypto world, and he's gonna give his opinion on it, and we're just gonna discuss it slightly. It's always quite an exciting thing. Followed by another Reform Broadcast Academy. We're diving into the Reform DAO, the DAO itself, what's the DAO structure, etc., and also into our legal structure. So that's going to be quite nice. We'll close it off with a small Q&A session from the people in our community. They had some questions, and we're going to dive into those again today. So I would say let's start and let's move ahead towards the Reform Studio and watch a nice video along the way. I see you guys there.
Hey guys, here we are again, ready to dive into another episode, broadcast of Reform DAO.
Nice, man. How have you been? All good?
Yeah, all good. Busy, of course, working towards something big, working towards the launch, working towards, everything in regards to Reform to get it up and running very well, of course. So, I've been good, just very busy, but that's what is normally the case whenever you is going to launch something innovative and new.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have not been the only one that's busy because the entire market is going crazy again, of course, and it's been a hectic week. A lot of interesting news. So let's look at some of the things that happened over the last 7 days.
Sure, let's go.
Yeah, let's start off. I'm sure you have seen this, but the US government indicts the crypto exchange KuCoin and 2 of its founders on criminal charges. They cited it's a multi-billion-dollar criminal conspiracy. They always know how to make it as if it's a Hollywood movie, and they are charged for operating an unlicensed money transmitting business and violating the Bank Secrecy Act. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, well, I think it's actually a bad sign for KuCoin. That's one thing for sure. I think, in general, it's not good for the space. Thank God we're in a bullish sentiment, so it does not impact the space that much. But yeah, all in all, I think it's of course a bad sign. But yeah, I also personally am not involved or let's say trading or whatsoever on KuCoin anymore. I feel like it was a very, very good exchange in 2017, 18, but also the bull run after that. But yeah, it just went south afterwards. So yeah, I don't know. I don't trade myself. I think with Reform, we're also not going to per se do any liquidity provision there. But yeah, you know, it's a signal that's not that well. But like I said, does not impact the space that much as, for example, an FTX did that back then.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's interesting, right? Because the U.S. government is doing this, but at the same time, I saw that yesterday KuCoin actually became the first ever FIU compliant global exchange in India, which is like the federal authorities in India on anything financial. And that's quite a big thing, right? Because India had a lot of like changes over the last year or two with crypto rules and regulations, and now KuCoin is the first one there, which is actually licensed compared to the US saying get out of here, right? So maybe that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in that sense, it's a different regime, right? It's a different way of checking. I think, yeah, I don't know how it exactly goes in both sides, to be fair, all in depth. But I think the US is just very strict. And yeah, I know that they are also then, if they find things are very, very strict in that. So yeah, I think in India, I don't know how the regulation is going there. But yeah, it's a pretty weird contradiction from my understanding.
Exactly right. Yeah, because the CFTC, which is the one of these agencies in the US that handles all of this financial stuff, they said that the Ethereum and Litecoin cryptos that are traded on KuCoin are commodities, and I believe that they're not licensed to trade commodities, and that's the issue.
Who is saying that, sorry?
Yeah, the CFTC, which is I forgot it already. There's so many of these names. CFTC, which is the Commodity Futures Trading Commission.
Okay. Yeah, well, you know, anyway, if they say that's a commodity, it has been the conversation of like the SEC for like a few months, right? They said, is Bitcoin a commodity or is it a currency or is it this, is it that? So it has been a never-ending conversation. So yeah, you know, all in all, I think that's just it is what it is, and just it's weird that they now again saying that it's with Ethereum or with Bitcoin or whatsoever, because yeah, it's just something that's on the table for a while now. And I think they finally took a stand whenever the ETF of Bitcoin was approved, of course, and the ETF of Ethereum is filed now. So yeah, if that's really the case, that they are hunting them because of that, I don't know what I have to think about it.
Yeah, because it's interesting, right? They all look at it from so many different angles, because that's basically crypto is just providing a solution for so many things, because it's considered commodities now, but also the SEC is still fighting, against the Ethereum for it being a security. So I don't know the fine details of that either. But what do you think all of this will? What type of impact will this have on the speculated Ethereum ETFs later this year?
To be fair, I think it will do nothing, because, as you know, the market is bullish. Everyone thinks there's money in the street. So, yeah, you know, it will not have any impact from my point of view, simply because of the fact that the bankers also are getting greedy right now. They just think like, yeah, we want to make money. We need to list those ETFs. You know, more parties will come with it. It will be offered to more parties. The Bitcoin ETF for now, then. And then, you know, when the Ethereum ETF comes, they see how much money they made with the Bitcoin ETF. Yeah, they're easily going to implement that, because in the end, money conquers the world in that sense. It's just, yeah, the more money you have, the more power you have. That you can see, for example, with BlackRock. Yeah, it's like, you know, they wanted to get it through the Bitcoin ETF and it went, and they will go for the Ethereum ETF.
Yeah, probably because they make a hell of a lot of money on it, so that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, it's actually, you know, it's showcasing in the market, because even though all of this news, as you already mentioned, should have a big impact like it did with FTX, Bitcoin is actually back on 70,000. So I guess that's quite bullish. I saw somewhere that JP Morgan mentioned it's still it's still there's still too much hype on it. It needs to go down a bit further before it's like the actual steady price where it should be based on what is bought, blah blah blah. But with all this happening and still BTC going up, and it has been fluctuating between 60 and 70, of course. Only it didn't went down that much over the last few weeks. And we spoke about it last week already a little bit. But what are your predictions with what happened this week, and then of course with the halving coming up? Like, did any of your predictions on where Bitcoin is heading changed over the last week?
Well, it's always difficult to give a prediction in a short period of time, but I think my long-term prediction is still there. Bitcoin will still go to above 100K, like 140, 150. It really depends on the demand. Like if there comes more demand from institutions and everything, it can even go much higher. But yeah, as we also talked about in the space with Mark van der Scheijs, which actually was a really good space. I think there's a lot of insights there also in regards to this, the different possibilities of where Bitcoin will be heading, where the crypto space in general will be heading. But yeah, in that case, it's just we need to wait for it to unfold. And I think especially the price movement of now, of the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it is very good because it's just a little bit of sideways consolidation. Today there was like a big liquidation event again to the top and to the downside. And this just shows that they're trying to get people out of the market, either up or down. But in the end, in the long term of time, it will just go up. But people tend to be like short-term incentivized. But I think especially if you think of it in the more longer period of time, then you will be fine and well if you just keep stay in the market right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because on the other side, also what I saw was that and it's a bit different than an ETF, but I'm not sure what 100% the differences are, to be honest. But the London Stock Exchange said they are launching a BTC and Ethereum exchange traded notes, an ETN market.
Okay.
And they're actually plan to launch this on the 28th of May, which is very soon, 2 months. Do you know what it is? Like, do you expect it similar to the ETFs, or is it something completely different?
To be fair, I should really dive into it, but again, it's a financial product, right? So it was an ETF. I think it was also even called like an ETP, and now it's also like an ETN is coming. I think in the essence it's all the same, but there are most likely different approaches to it in how it's held or how it's backed or whatever. There are different ways on how you can structure things, and if it's agreed upon by the regulators, then you can just launch it. And I think the ETN, I need to dive into it, what it exactly is, but it could not be rocket science in comparison to the ETF.
No, yeah, exactly. I think it's super bullish because, I mean, obviously the US market is massive, but the British market is also quite big, I would assume. So I think it will have quite a nice impact on the space in general. Those the BTC and ETH. ETNs are now available, on the 28th of May. Well, in other news, there's a U.S. presidential candidate, RFK Jr., and he said that cryptocurrency is the best hedge against inflation.
Interesting.
I think it's great to see. I haven't looked into which part of the spectrum he's on as a politician, but Trump, of course, already has been backing crypto for a long time. It's interesting to see there's more people that high up in the food chain in the U.S. Government that are so pro crypto, actually.
Yeah, I think it's also to some extent aiming for more of the younger generation, right? Because if you look at the average age in crypto, it's I think around 30 or something. So yeah, it's also something that they're aiming for, right? This is the new sort of group of people that are going to decide on who is going to rule the country in the end, that they want to win for their favor. So in the end, I also think it's some sort of strong marketing thing for them. But if they're really sincere, I think it's a really good thing from as well Trump, from as well as RFK. I also saw him at the Ethereum Denver conference. I think they're doing their effort to actually acknowledge that crypto is there and that they also sort of believe in it, and I think that's good. If they're pro crypto, that's better for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Another thing which is a bit interesting to talk about, but it happened now. It would be better. Well, actually, we'll talk about it on Friday in our space. But Munchables, it's I believe an NFT slash game project. They got hacked for over $60 million. And then they eventually got their funds back with the help of Zach HBT and then like all these researchers out there, because they found out that one of their own developers was the hacker, and they persuaded him to give the money back eventually. Seeing news like this, obviously in a bull, it's not rare, but I was just curious because we're gonna talk about it on Friday. We will talk about it, a bit in depth today because we're talking about the legal structure of the Reform DAO in our academy part of this broadcast. How what is your opinion on all of this? Like, how can this even happen, right? Shouldn't there be like a multi-sig and all these things? Like, how could one person get access to these funds?
Yeah, of course, there should always be security in place, and I think multi-signatures are a huge part of this. Indeed, decentralization is a super important point, but also of course, you also need to be able to trust people. You need to have like the right accessibility for the right people, right? So if you have a developer that's able to actually steal 60 million of your funds, then something is not right, in the way how you launch your smart contracts or how you protect your capital or whatsoever. So I think in the essence it always comes down to the founders who actually need to make sure that they protect everything well and structure it well, if it's decentralized or centralized. And then if that's not done well, then if you hire malicious people, then and you're not aware of them being malicious, then you can get burnt. And I think this is a perfect example, something that happened in the space already for a lot of times. And I think also something that will not stop anytime soon, simply because of the fact that the space is still maturing a lot. But anyway, we will see those things, and I think it's not very different than traditional world, whereby also portfolios sometimes will, get drained or whatsoever. Nonetheless, they have a lot of security measurements there in place already, which I also think will come to crypto space eventually, whereby there's no possibility for people to actually have those kind of numbers to steal them.
Yeah, and just a follow-up question on that, because I'm just very curious. I think it's a super interesting topic, but obviously the majority of the security that's offered in Web 2, it's all very, very centralized because your banks guarantee things, et cetera, et cetera. How do you think security would look like that in Web 3, where we don't want it to be centralized, right? We want to have it decentralized. I have never really known, but maybe you can explain a bit.
Yeah, I think you need to have a balance between the two, right? So in the traditional world, you have, for example, also custodians, and I think custodians are very good to that extent because they need to maintain certain regulations and can make sure that they uphold certain boundaries in terms of capital that they need to preserve. And I just think that they are, in terms of regulations, it's very important for the traditional finance system to actually get interested in crypto. Nonetheless, of course, I also believe that smart contracts is, of course, the best security that you can have, because it's just a piece of code that will be executed by calling it or calling a specific function, and then it will do whatever you're requesting. And if you have no functions that are malicious or whatsoever within the smart contract, or there are not any exploits, then you're more than safe. Same as, for example, all the multi-signature wallets. It's just okay. You have a smart contract. Multiple people need to verify a specific transaction, and if that's then the case, then the transaction will go through. Super simple. It's all code written, and it cannot be adjusted by a single person, because all people or a limited amount of people need to actually confirm it. So I think those kind of developments are super important for the space to have. And I think the centralized part that I just mentioned in terms of custodians and everything in terms of regulation is also super important, because that will bring more trust to the space. Like the ETFs, right? It's a perfect example, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very interesting. And it aligns quite a bit with what we're going to talk about, of course, today with regards to the legal structure of reform and how everything is put in place there. And we're going to talk about it on Friday, and we're going to talk about it on next week, Wednesday as well, a little bit. So it's a trending topic this week for reform, and I think it's super interesting and very important indeed. Then the last thing, we somehow have the habit of closing off the news here with something non-crypto related. and today it's similar. But it is related a little bit to the main platform that we all use, which is X, right? Before previously known as Twitter. And the company Neuralink, which is Elon Musk's company that is developing chips that can interact with, I believe, your brain waves. So it's basically they put chips in your brain, and then what you think can be executed on a computer, basically. They did this a while ago, and the first people that have this are now actively trying to use it. And I believe yesterday, the first person that has this chip actually posted something on X just by thinking. So he didn't type anything, he just thought it, and then he posted it. What's your opinion on this? Because that's an interesting development, I guess.
Man, I need this. To be fair, I really need this. I think, in the end, I would not like it to have it in my brain, something implemented in my brain. But, all in all, just as of now, when I think of something, because it's so busy, so many things going on, I need to write it down and I need to remember it and I need to make sure that I follow up with it. So if I have this chip in my brain, I can just think of it and then it automatically saved in my sort of database, whatever, and then it will get back to me, whatever, at the time that I need it. If that's all possible, life will get so much more efficient, as I think it, of course, and it will be a lot of time savings. But like I said, I would not like to have a chip in my brain, but I think the possibilities with it are endless, and that's what I really would like.
Yeah, it's very interesting because now what I understood is that now the chips can just read the brainwaves, and then they can do whatever the brainwaves basically said, but the brain cannot read what's on the chip. So basically, it cannot talk to your brain. So what you just said is very interesting because that's like a next step, right? Where you can use it as an infinitive storage. Man, like we can talk about it for hours. It's super interesting. There's a whole movie about this where they take a pill and then they get full access to everything that's in their brain because apparently we only use a small part of our brain. This would be the same, that would be insane. Wow. All right.
That
Well,
would be great.
we're getting lost.
Philosophical tips.
Yeah. Okay, then I think it's time to go towards the Reform Academy of the broadcast because we have a very interesting topic again today. So guys, we have a nice new video for you guys to watch whilst we are moving over to the Reform Academy / university room, and we'll see you all there.
Yes, see you in a bit.
All right. Welcome everyone. And
alrighty,
see, we're in the Reform Academy again.
Welcome to school. Back to school.
Where you actually learn something that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I am just having a quick look. So today, what we want to do is look into what a DAO is a little bit. Like how does a DAO work? Why would you go for a DAO? Why did Reform decide to be a DAO? And what the entire legal structure of Reform looks like. I think, as you can all already see on the background, there is the actual legal structure of Reform. We will dive into that very soon. We'll have Scorpio explain everything that's on there. But first, Scorpio, I wanted to look into a bit of the basics before we dive into that. So, Scorpio, maybe you can very quickly explain the audience what a DAO is.
Yeah, so there are different ways to interpret what a DAO is. A DAO is, of course, a decentralized autonomous organization when you have like the full explanation to it. Am I allowed, by the way, to give all the things that I want to say? Because I know you always have a lot of questions that you are already getting answered.
Well, you can explain what a DAO is, and then my follow-up question would be, if you can explain why the team decided to be a DAO. But first, let's dive into this.
All good, sound good. So yeah, decentralized autonomous organization. Actually, yeah, you can see it as a company that's just being managed by different people over the globe, but in a more of a decentralized way. So you of course have a lot of centralized companies that have still people working around the globe, but are owned by sort of shareholders, people that actually, own the company with like 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 people, whatever. But I think especially in the form of a DAO, everyone can be part of this organization. By terms of voting, deciding on the bigger decisions of the overall structure, and actually making sure that, well, in our case, everyone is benefiting also from the practices that you're doing. So I think, in the core essence, that actually, from my point of view, what a DAO is, more of a sort of decentralized way of actually operating as a company instead of, just a traditional company structure whereby you have shareholders.
Yeah, exactly. And why did you and the other core contributors decided when creating Reform to go for a DAO structure?
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good question, and we actually came to the conclusion that we wanted to structure it like this because we have a lot of experience also with algorithmic trading already before, but that's all structured within a normal centralized company. And we actually thought, okay, we want to do also designated market making. So we thought, okay, let's do an exploration first. We met with a lot of projects. We spoke to them. We actually met with different stakeholders like third parties who actually funnel those projects to market makers. And we actually came to the conclusion that the space itself was actually quite sort of mercenary, and that we thought, okay, well, we would like to make a difference and not be one of the normal market makers in that sense. So that's how we actually came to a DAO. We made a whole exploration to actually set this up, whereby actually the token holders are going to be the ones deciding on the biggest changes within the ecosystem, and actually also whereby value will actually flow back in the end towards the token holders, not directly but indirectly, and whereby governance and everything is still in place. So I think that was actually the motivation of us setting up a DAO instead of just a normal company in that sense.
Yeah, very interesting. I think you made a great decision because indeed it has so many benefits, as you just explained. So next week we will look into the governance and the proposal lifecycle of the DAO. So let's not dive in too far, but I wanted to ask you to basically scrape the top of it a little bit to create a bit more understanding of this. So as I said, maybe you can explain a little bit about the governance, like how does it work? And then maybe let's start with the voting.
Yeah, so do you want me to explain already like the flow, or more like just the voting in general, like the snapshot?
Well, I would say let's first start. How can people become a part of the DAO? Like, when are you a DAO member, and can you vote as a DAO member?
Yeah, that's fair. I think to of course be a DAO member, if you compare it to a traditional world, while you have like companies with shareholders, but those shareholders actually injected capital to actually get the company where it is today. Same goes actually for the DAO structure. If you want to become part of the DAO, you actually need to inject capital by buying through the bonding, or actually buying from a centralized exchange or whatsoever. The main difference is that we actually want to incentivize people that are locking their tokens with us. So then you need to lock your tokens within the staking pool. If that's through the bonding treasury buy, or like I said, through a centralized exchange buy, does not matter. You lock it in the staking pool, and then you actually get your voting power by being part of the staking pool, like I mentioned. So that's actually how you obtain your vote within the overall DAO.
Yeah, and then maybe quickly just go to the steps of the voting life cycle. We'll dive into that next week completely, but maybe like, how does that work? So can everyone vote, and what do they vote on? Who decides where to vote on, etc.?
Yeah, so we have, of course, a voting life cycle, which you can also see in our Git book. But I think main importance is that we have different steps. So first step is actually always going to be like a governance proposal, whereby people need to go to the gov.reformdao.com. There you can actually have a full environment where people can bring up topics. It was also in regards to the airdrop and everything. People made topics. And then actually, it was just something that was brought up as a discussion. But this forum is actually used for people that actually have an idea or want to bring something up or change something in the overall structure, to actually start people voting on it and actually give comments. Then after enough discussion, after enough likes of people, we could think of, okay, implementing it. Then it will be transferred from the governance forum to actually the snapshot, whereby it will be voted upon. This will be done by the core contributors. They can actually make sure that from the governance forum, where actually everyone can put something in, it will be sent towards the snapshot. In the snapshot, it will then be voted upon by the people who hold the tokens and actually are locked within the staking treasury, or we're locked within the staking treasury. So that's actually it. And then it will be voted upon. And if it passes, then it will be implemented in the overall structure. And if it does not pass, it will not be implemented. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. And as I said, we'll dive into all these details more or less next week. We'll visualize it for you guys so it's more clear to understand, because obviously it's a bit of a I can understand for people it might be difficult to grasp that entire structure, and it's pretty important because we want all of you that are listening to buy Reform tokens or get them through the airdrop and become part of the community. So also become part of the DAO, of course, in that way. So yeah, let's dive into the legal structure. I think that was enough about the DAO and why we did it. So as I already said, the legal structure is on the board behind us. I think, so as far as I understood, I think that's good to start there. The legal structure of Reform is a purposed trust, right?
Yeah, that's completely right. You actually should see it as a sort of hybrid model, the DAO, because it has centralized and decentralized parts, but I will get back to that later. You can continue.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, perfect. So actually, I figured for this time, maybe it's better if I'm not just asking you the questions, but you are just explaining the entire flow, since we visualized it. So it's on the board behind us. The people can see it. I think you know what image is there, of course. So
Sure.
maybe just run us through it on your terms, and people can follow on the board what's happening.
Yeah. So let's just indeed dive into it. So if you look at it, you see at the top, you see actually token holders. Well, that's going to be all of you, of course. So that's actually the people who are going to set up the constitution. The constitution is now already made one time, but it actually is up for change. So it can actually change all the time based on specific parameters. And then people can vote upon that and make sure that it's aligned with the overall interest of the token holders. So that's one thing. Most important thing actually of the overall structure. Then what's actually the case is that that's how Reform, where you see the R, is actually structured and actually governed and managed. But the most important part is that the top side is more of the decentralized part, whereby people are actually making sure that the bigger decisions in the overall ecosystem are being maintained and governed. And I think the bottom on the downside of the R, you actually see like the limited that's managing the day-to-day operations. So in that sense, it's super important to have it, because especially as a market maker, you need to have a legal entity to sign documents, to actually start exchange accounts, to make sure that everything is working properly, and actually don't have the hassle of every second or day ask for permission to spend specific things, because it's still sort of, it needs to be a workable structure, right? So that's actually how the hybrid structure came into place. Then you actually see next to the limited, you see actually the trustee, whereby you see underneath the arrow, you see a deed. So the deed of the trustee is actually stating that it holds 100% of the shares of the limited on behalf of the token holders. So this actually means that the trustee should actually verify if the directors of the limited are following what the token holders have been stating within the constitution. So this is like a very mouthful, but this is actually how the structure is working in this case. So then the trustee is verifying up on that, and then the enforcer, which you see above the trustee, is actually making sure that the trustee will not go rogue, because the trustee has, of course, 100% of the shares, so he or she can do whatever they want in the end. But the enforcer makes sure, because it has no sort of incentive to do malicious acts, because it does not own the shares, to actually appoint a new trustee whenever it goes rogue. So this is like indeed a traditional English or British structure, a purpose trust, whereby the purpose is now serving the interest of the token holders by following the constitution and seeing if the directors actually are following it within the limited. So this is actually how the structure is working.
Well, that's a mouthful, but I think it's very good, and I think it's very important. So yeah, definitely something people should understand when they get involved. I think it's always very important that you know what you get into. Yeah, Scorpio. Well, thanks so much, because I think honestly that just explains it, and I can go further into detail on little things, but then we probably need like 4 more hours to discuss every little detail. And I think you gave a very clear and brief explanation on the entire structure already. As you mentioned, it's also already on the Gitbook. So if you guys have any questions or you have any doubts around this, feel free to check out the Gitbook. There's explanations there as well. But I think Scorpio did a great job in explaining it. And that was actually the last part of the Academy for today. It's slightly smaller than normally, I think. I think I expected this part to be a bit longer, but you were very to the point, and that's great.
Yeah, it's important to explain it like clear and to the point, because the more things you get to it, the more unclear it actually becomes. So like you also said, Paulus, I think it's super important for everyone to understand this. And if you have questions, just ask them in the Discord. We're there every second of the day.
Absolutely. Okay, then let's move over to the Q&A studio. There's a couple of questions from the community, not too many today, and we'll go over those. So guys, hold on for a minute, and we'll see you very soon again. Here we are. Again. Scorpio still in the mood?
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, we're getting faster and faster every we move to. It's going quite smooth lately.
Exactly. Well, we got some cool information in between, of course, so it's nice for people to see. But yeah, it's also great that we're doing this faster, because it keeps it more engaged, I guess, with the people. Yeah, as I said, we don't have too many questions today, but we got a couple. First of all, someone asked when the airdrop. Well, when airdrop, obviously there's never full sentences, but I guess that's Web3. Yeah, I get the question. When Moon, yeah, when
Moon, I
Nemo.
said. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no, I fully understand the question. Let me quickly answer that from my side. The airdrop actually happens when we have the TG, of course, because there's no tokens before that. And the airdrop will close 7 days before the official launch. So once the launch is officially announced, 7 days before that, we will close the airdrop, so we know exactly who is getting the airdrop. And then on the TGE, everyone will know what their airdrop is. Then another question, which is actually something you have already answered. So I think you can answer it very quickly, Scorpio. But who is qualified to be a DAO member?
Yeah, I think we actually went through this, not maybe today, but like before. A DAO member can be anyone, not even, you don't even have to be a token holder. Like a DAO member can also be someone who can just contribute in terms of, work, or in terms of, operations, like doing anything that's in the benefit for the DAO, also being compensated for that. So that's already a DAO member. But I think, as you mentioned it, I think it's also meant for like token holders. They are really going to be the ones actually, deciding upon the overall structure, right, and deciding over the bigger changes within the ecosystem and within the overall case of reform. So I think, to your point, I think it's more relevant to being a token holder who's taking your tokens than your, let's say, a real DAO member, so to say. And what I was mentioning maybe in the beginning is more like a contributor, so contributor or core contributor or whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. And then let's leave aside the contributors, core contributors, the people that get a salary from the DAO or compensation from the DAO. Is there a revenue share for the DAO members? I thought it was an interesting question because directly the answer is probably no, but indirectly it might be. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so for now we work with, of course, buybacks, which will incentivize the price, or let's say make the price appreciate over time, and then we will actually use that to fill up the bonding again, so that we can grow in liquidity, so we can make more realized profits. But I think, it's something that really came forward a lot of times, and we're also exploring with legal advisors and also with different stakeholders to actually see if we can create something that's also going to be some sort of real yield for people. But I think, this will be like more of an exploration journey that will actually be possible to implement within a few months or something from now. But like I said, this is a lot of legal implications which we want to cover appropriately. And of course, this also will all be voted upon through a DAO proposal, whereby everyone needs to decide upon a bigger change within the overall ecosystem. So all in all, it's an exploration for now, and if it's going to go through, we'll do a proposal for the people. If they want it, then we can also put it to a vote. And if the vote passes, we're most likely going to, it is going to be implemented. But hang on tight for that.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's clear. Then another question from someone in the community was, what if someone has multiple tokens in multiple wallets? Do they get multiple options to vote as well? And how do you handle that, basically?
Yeah, so if you have if you have different wallets holding tokens, you can just do voting with all of those wallets. So it's just an accumulative amount that you can use to actually make your vote count in that sense.
And no, we think it's a bad thing that someone can have like 50 or 500 wallets and influence votes.
Well, it does not matter, right? You can also have, if you have 500 wallets with one token in it, you have 500 tokens. But if you have one wallet with 500 tokens in it, you have 500 tokens. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So do not really see the point of more wallets being a problem.
Exactly, right. So the voting is always based on the percentage of how many tokens you own compared to the total supply that's in the DAO.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it does not matter if you have 500 wallets or 500,000 wallets. It depends on the amount.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, right? Because a lot of people said in the chat, like, oh, I don't know if this is a noob question or a bad question. It's like, no, I think these are actually great questions because I can completely understand people don't know this. Something else. Oh, they also asked, how do we deal with bot accounts that are farming the airdrop? Obviously, we've explained this a lot of times, but our airdrop, especially the Discord diamond tier, is just so difficult to acquire. Like, you really need to make sure you're there, you're active. We monitor it, so we actively ban people that use multiple accounts, and we spot that, or we do IP checks, etc. And we discussed this multiple times already in the space. But yeah, we do everything we can. Obviously, we can't always catch everyone, but we do as much as we can to make sure that the people that receive our airdrops are actually those individuals, and it's not a whole bunch of duplicate wallets from the same person. And then actually the last question for today already, Scorpio. It's a short one, as I said. The trading data shown using the trading engine and the realized profit shown. Is this real profit or is it testnet data for now? And I assume this is someone who saw the dashboard in the testnet.
Yeah, so actually the realized profit, wait, I don't actually know what the number is showing in the testnet dashboard, to be fair, but I know that's, for example, on the website, so reformdao.com, that's really showcasing like the realized profit that we made. So we made over the last month with, like I said before, 1.2 million or something deployed. We made like 40K in revenue, which is, you know, not super surprising or something or super amazing, but, you know, this is up for growth. It's now only the beginning, and you know we're now already closing down to 3.5 million in terms of raised capital, and you know that will also mean that the realized profits per month will also be increased significantly, and that also comes, of course, with then whenever we have TG and people are able to buy the bonding openly, it can grow only further in that sense. So the more capital we have, the more realized profits we make, and also the more market making projects we will have, the more tokens will also flow to the DAO treasury that we can actually keep market making with and provide liquidity to generate more realized profits.
Exactly, and you know, it's if you look at it, it doesn't seem like much on all the big numbers that we see in Web3, but at the same time, this is just in a matter of days or 1 or 2 weeks that we generated this profit so far. And if you look at the same time at, for example, another revenue stream we discussed last week was, or 2 weeks ago, was rebates. We already did $350 million worth of trading volume, where we will get a small percentage of rebates on. So like all that together will only make it such a growing ecosystem that I think the 40K is actually already impressive to see.
Yeah, the bigger we get, the better, of course, 100%.
All right, well, that was everything for today. I don't have any other questions. Scorpio, anything to add from your side?
No, I think all clear. We gave a very good explanation in regards to the news, but also in regards to, of course, the legal structure, what people should look at and learn about. And let's take it from there.
Exactly. All right. Well, perfect. Thanks so much for being here again, Scorpio. I always very appreciate you taking the time for me and for everyone that's listening.
Yeah, sure.
And thanks everyone that's listening again. We love to have you guys here, and it's always a lot of fun. Doing these deep dives into specific topics within Reform. We hope to see you all on Friday. We actually have a space about smart contracts and security, where we will be joined by Hacken, which is one of the companies that audited our smart contracts. And then, of course, next week, Wednesday, we have a regular broadcast again, where we dive more into the governance of the DAO and the voting lifecycle of the DAO. Once again, thanks everyone, and thanks again, Scorpio, and see you all next week.
Okay, thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye.